How do you keep it going all the time? Chapter 1. Love and Transcendence. Intimate Connections. They brainwash all of us to look for a perfect soulmate connection that will last forever, but even though I'm with people I consider close and intimate, all my relations are tentative. I live in the moment. I accept anyone for how they present themselves to me right now because I know how fickle, moody, and emotional loads of people are. People will turn on you in a second if they think you're disrespecting them. It's the nature of the human beast. What about jealousy? Somebody is always playing the one-upmanship game. They always have to let you know that they think they're better than you. I've been in altruistic groups looking for something. I've been in different church groups, left-wing political groups and non-profits. There are some sincerely good people there, but most are in the middle, engaging in that games people play gossip you see everywhere. They live by their emotions as opposed to the code we're supposed to follow as part of the altruistic group there to help humanity. The truth is that most people join these groups for social reasons, not because they have a burning desire to help their fellow man. It's the same old inner politics as anywhere. People jostle for position, trying to be the most popular or allying with the most powerful people in the in-crowd, and there's the sexual tension like who wants to be with who. That's human nature. There's no brotherhood of people anytime you get more than 3 people involved. It always comes down to favorites. Everybody forms in their little groups and they often start to fight with the other groups. Every individual lives in his own fantasy world in his or her mind. The weakest ones among us try to pretend we belong to some elitist group in our neck of the woods, and we try to conform to the images of coolness and high status the capitalist marketers try to sell us. It's like in high school or college. You can supposedly divide the students into about 6 or so groups. The nerds, geeks, jocks, popular crowd, the brains, the hip-hop bunch, the country crowd, the goth crowd, the hippie druggies, etc. If you go around talking to a bunch of people who supposedly belong to all these different groups, you'll soon discover they're all loner individuals stuck in their own heads with their own delusions, insecurities, hopes and dreams, most of which no one else knows, and most people don't really want to know because they're too busy with their own delusions and ideas about their own lives, even though they're all putting forth some kind of outer image about themselves about belonging to some illusory in-crowd. I've been to New Year's parties, then the levees the next morning with the supposed elite members of society in my neck of the woods. At that point in time, in my youth, I was playing the game of the world. I was trying to find my place in it as a cool, high-status dude until I realized everybody's a loner by design. Some people are trying to play image, status games to try to appear elite and advance to other people, but every morning when any person wakes up, they face life alone, accountable to themselves. What is transcendence? If any activity doesn't free your soul for a while, it can't give you a special feeling. That's how you can tell if anything greatly enhances a person's experience of the human condition, or if it's just something done for image, to make some scene to give someone the delusion they're living high. I have explored my dark side to see what was in there, to see how low, degraded and decadent I got by following my primal side while neglecting my more noble, inspired side. That's how I learned what inner harmony is and what happens when you lose it. Total hedonism leads to self-betrayal and loss of self. Feeling good all the time does not come from overindulgence, decadence, or the total pursuit of carnal pleasure. You have to act in such a way that you're always in harmony with the true nature in your soul. What this means in plain English is that you have to honor who you believe yourself to be by releasing most of your natural energy every day in all its facets, the inspired, the loving, the sensual and the hedonistic. I run my life like a surfer rides a wave. I gotta ride it, that's what makes me feel really good and earns me my self-respect. I release that flow of energy coursing through my veins all the time. Every time I've done a good continuous stream of the few activities I love to do, I feel great. If you want to live every day as a celebration of the beauty of your life, you have to run with it, always releasing that natural energy within your being with joy for the process. The people who do this are the only really happy ones. Nobody else comes close. If you've ever seen a great showman or performer in any endeavor, they'll tell you it's never a routine performance. It can't be. They have too much self-respect and sense of inner accountability to ever not go all out and rise to the occasion. That's why all those creative types keep working out in the public realm long after they've made much more money than they'll ever need. They get the rush of creating their lives as they live them you can't get anywhere else, when you're doing something tough that takes great inspired effort in front of others. It can't be a cakewalk. This is why all that capitalist marketing about happiness being the pursuit of passive relaxation and luxury consumer products is a big, fat advertising lie. Playing golf at retirement is like being put out to pasture to chew your cud. The happiest people are wise enough to know you don't stop doing what you love just because you reach a certain age. Happiness is the result of doing tough, inspiring, invigorating things regardless of how old you are. If I'm feeling pretty good, I have to push it to reach my standards. If I'm feeling really good, I have to hit a grand slam in my experience of the human condition today. I owe it to myself. I must. When I give superhuman effort to try to outdo my regular ability in something I love to do, the end result is always the same. I feel great, high on life. I feel like I just did justice to the great spirit of the cosmos that created me. I feel united with the primal noble divine force inside of me. It's like Michelangelo's painting on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, Adam trying to touch God. I get to touch the divine force of the universe flowing through my veins for a while pretty well every day, but then it goes away when I go to sleep and I have to try to recreate it again tomorrow. I went to a 20th century literature class with only 2 students in it because everyone else was more interested in the practical business courses. Over a period of a couple of months we read the novel Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce, watching how Stephen Dedalus questioned the big institutions in his Irish society, peeling them all away one by one until he freed himself from the influences of everything he was ever brought up to believe in. He realized that his life was about the pure him alone. It was about having the guts, the freedom, and the beauty to live his life his way according to his standards. That was the awakening of Stephen Dedalus, to see life as a free-spirited, creative adventure. This should be what enlightenment is about, to make you realize your life is a constant adventure of finite time. You should be free enough to do what you want as opposed to letting yourself get brainwashed by the forces of the world that define happiness and success for you. In the novel, Stephen Dedalus says to Davin, the Irish patriot, "When the soul of a man is born in this country, there are nets flung at it to hold it back from flying. You talk to me of nationality, language, religion. I shall try to fly by these nets." Plain and simple, I believe that most of the mental and medical problems people have in modern society is a direct result of not following their true natures, not releasing the natural energy in their free spirits. If we had lived 7,000 years alongside Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and the native red man running free in the Americas, it would have been just us alone with our thoughts, feelings, and intuition given to us by the Creator God Alaganesh Buddha, spirit of the universe who created us. The Creator God made each of us with a true, pure nature. We're taught that life is about the 8 or so subjects taught in grade school. Other subjects don't count. Discovering life as you live it doesn't rate. Creative thinking doesn't count. Following your own curiosity doesn't count. Doing things for your own intrinsic interest outside a classroom don't count. American dream capitalism is all about standing on the illusory pedestal as the illusory winner. There's no room for trying to figure out a way to earn a living by doing something you're naturally interested in. It's all about profit, production, market share, and being number one in your particular milieu. We're taught that socioeconomic status is the scorecard of success and happiness in life. It is defined by how high up your profession is in the status hierarchy of all professions, how high up you are within your profession, how much money you make, how big your house is, how many cars you own, and how expensive they are. We're taught that the key to happiness is material excess. TV shows are always showing us rich, famous, elitist, uppity people having a great, old time pursuing frivolous lifestyles of extreme material luxury. Then the TV commercials come on to complement these hyped up, glitzy shows by trying to hook you into buying into this lifestyle brand that your self-worth, happiness and popularity is determined by how much material stuff you own. Pop culture entertainment is presented to us as the land of godlike, advanced elitists where people are manufactured to appear larger than life to us as pop stars, movie stars, and professional athletes. We're taught that these are coolest, most popular, super gifted, most advanced people of society that are really more like demigods than human beings. We should consider it a privilege to be entertained by them, admire them, and try to imitate them. They never tell us about creating our own lives through what we do and how we think. The fake knowledge that society thrusts on us. The entire realm of the social sciences is a big bunch of fake verbal diarrhea that exploded onto the scene in the past 50 years or so. Now we got fake experts for everything and stupid quantitative research that supposedly makes these fields our formal, legitimate knowledge of life. Whatever happened to the intuition and wisdom given to us by God? They try to separate us from it in grade school and try to instill a sense of helpless dependency within us such that we turn to the system's institutions to solve our problems and tell us what to do. It's a big tragedy how we, the people, allowed ourselves to buy into all these lies the establishment is selling us. Society has created a bunch of fake knowledge and big, fraudulent formal institutions that are trying to make us think they have the advanced, scientific expertise to help us deal with our lives that's much better than the inherent wisdom our Creator God endowed us. The funny thing is that the human race got along fine before all this phony knowledge was created in the last 100 years or so. They're trying to separate us from our true natures and get us to give over control of our lives to them, the mental health industry, the self-help industry, psychology, psychiatry, sociology, psychotherapy, cognitive therapy, the law of attraction, the ultimate edge, the 7 habits of highly effective people and any other science of the mind they claim to have come up with that will supposedly enhance your life and solve all your problems. It's all a big scam to make us feel powerless and indoctrinate us to think that somebody else has the answers to life better than we have within ourselves so that they can intimidate us and make money off us through mental health drugs, therapy sessions, and oodles of self-help, psychobabble books and tapes. I'm not disputing the fact that a few people like autistic children, schizophrenics, and people with traumatic brain injuries have something wrong with their organic brains and need help to try to improve their ability to think clearly, but the big, massive scam has been to blame every human weakness and failing on an organic, inherent disorder of the brain that can only be fixed by drugs and therapy. The vast majority of us were born with perfectly fine brains, not inherently defective ones as the mental health industry is currently preaching in a big way. You create your biochemistry through how you live. You create your own depression, anxiety, neuroses, phobias, and addictions through what you do or don't do. Inactivity, misery, and negative thinking change the biochemistry of the brain to make you feel miserable, tired, and lethargic. Your mental weaknesses are not the result of an organic defect in your brain beyond your control as the mental health industry is trying to have us believe. You create your miserable, tense mind by following the artificial values of the world that you got sucked into buying, so you can undo it by following your true nature the way you were born to. If you follow your free spirit, you live a vital, inspired life. As you develop strength and self-respect by purging your natural energy, your mental problems go away. Chapter 2. Love and Life. I got sick and saw the end of my life. I got so sick that I felt I was at death's door. While I lay there, I realized that there was only one thing that really mattered in life to me: be proud of who I am through what I do and never stop. Do it every day. Answer to the inner standard God endowed me with. It's all there inside of me if I listen to myself and shut out all the noise from the world. Live to be proud of myself for me through what I do, not because I might have some ulterior motive out in the world to try to be a big shot or impress other people with how cool, rich and advanced I must be. I had an image of standing on a cloud naked in front of my Creator God. He wants to be proud that I became who He created me to be, that I fully manifested the genetic seed he endowed me with at conception. That's it. We all intuitively know when we are doing something honorable or less than honorable. I realized I should live and let live, be kind to people in need and people who ask me for help, but other than that, don't try to interfere or manipulate people ever, even when I don't agree with them on a minor point. As long as they don't try to mess with me, don't impose my will on others. I shouldn't be a busybody poking my nose into other people's business. There's no sense fighting or arguing with people about their beliefs or anything for that matter. They would just resent me for it. I'm a rock with my own code. I don't listen too much to what other people say because most of them are full of self-serving crap next to the wisdom in my soul I was born with, given to me by my Creator God. My highest source of wisdom and knowledge is what I feel inside of me, given to me by God, not all this phony knowledge created by people to try to make money or control people in some way by getting them to buy into some ideology or lifestyle brand. Get a job, get married, is it enough? Oh, carry. Oh, blind strivings of the human heart. Onward, it saith, and where beauty leads, there it follows. Whether it be the tinkle of a lone sheep bell or some quiet landscape, or the glimmer of beauty in sylvan places, or the show of soul in some passing eye, the heart knows and makes answer, following. It is when the feet weary and hope seems vain that the heart aches and the longings arise. Know, then, that for you is neither surfeit nor content. In your rocking chair, by your window dreaming, shall you long, alone. In your rocking chair, by your window, shall you dream such happiness as you may never feel. Last paragraph of Sister Carrie, by Theodore Dreiser. I was educated to aspire to go to college to get a professional job, after which I would get married, have children, buy a house and acquire material things. There's only one problem with this paradigm. It's not mine. It's somebody else's ideas of what a good life is thrust onto my true nature. Citizen Kane has been rated as the greatest movie of all time. This is because it exposes how destructive existential loneliness can be. The guy became a tycoon out in the world trying to replicate the mother's love he had for a short while as a kid before it was abruptly taken from him. His life was reduced to looking to find that kind of love again. That's what the sled represented. Everything he did was a desire to find that mother's love again. He mistakenly thought success and power out in the world would give him love, fame and a good, fulfilled feeling, but it didn't. His life was a tragedy because everything he did was an attempt to go back to that warm, safe feeling he had briefly in childhood, which, of course, he never could because life doesn't work that way. It keeps moving. As much as people try, you can't freeze a perfect moment and relieve it. People make extensive wedding albums and wedding videos trying to preserve a moment in time. Half of them will be rendered void by divorce. You can choose to live right now in the moment and keep running with your life no matter what, or you can feel deficient and alone because you don't have the love you crave in life, then spend your life neurotically looking for love and approval from others. Relationships can only fill you up so far, then you're alone to find fulfillment within yourself. A lot of people don't know this, partially because almost everything, all the way from fairy tales to love movies, tell us that love and marriage will solve our problems and make us happy, but they don't, simply because you still spend most of your time alone. There's no in crowd anywhere despite the airs people put on and the desperation some of them have to fit in with the alleged cool people. We're all a bunch of loners walking around, trying to fit into some collective image of what it means to be cool and successful so that we can attract cool, successful people to us and be part of the illusory, local happening crowd for a while. Don't be so neurotic that you destroy your life looking for some dreamy love connection you got brainwashed by in some movie to soften your sense of existential loneliness. The movies are very far away from real life as lived day by day. The movies are fictional, idealized stories, even the true ones. They call it dramatic license. Love and affection are great if you can find people and pets who love you for you, but even then, You're only engaged with them for an hour or two a day at the most in mutual intimacy. If you have any doubt that all you own is your body and soul and how material things and your so-called status out in the world mean almost nothing, watch any documentary about people with serious medical problems or old people. It's just you in that body. If you're smart, you'll run with it while it's vital and do everything you can to keep it strong. Friendship and relationships are great, but you still live your life alone, known to no one but you. Nobody ever wants to admit it or talk about it, but it's the truth. We create elaborate illusions for ourselves of connections through such things as being citizens of a particular nation, being part of the same generation, belonging to a certain religion, being an alumnus of a certain college, belonging to the same ethnic group, having the same hair color, being left-handed, being in the same profession, etc. But none of this stuff means much next to understanding and living by your own true nature. Millions of people think that marriage will permanently elevate their state of consciousness by a quantum leap, but it's still you alone in your head. If you're like most people, you'll eventually realize that your dog or cat gives you more touchy-feely love than your mate, unless you luck out with a very touchy-feely partner, which is rare based on my experiences with people. Most people don't seem to enjoy touchy-feely intimacy for its own sake, or at least they don't act like they do. You must be at peace with your own state of mind before you can ever possibly be a great lover, mate, and parent. You have to be proud of who you are through what you do. Can you ride your life like a surfer rides a wave? I believe all of us start out creative, vital, inspired, bohemian, sensuous and fun-loving like Zorba the Greek dancing around the fire, but it all gets buried away when we take on the values of the world. Then after enough self-betrayal, it's all gone. It gives way to a permanent feeling of mundanity, looking to food and pop culture entertainment for pleasure rather than the experience of life being its own source of pleasure. The term free-spiritism gives off the impression of an undisciplined, wild, and free life, but it's not about that after you attain enlightenment. I was an aimless wandering bohemian as a young man, following my whims, trying to learn about life and how the world operates, so I tried a lot of things, some of which were stupid and dangerous. Going out into the world to experience new and novel things is a necessary part of life's journey, because you have to see what's out there to your satisfaction in order to eventually realize that most of it means nothing to you. When I was young, I was curious. I thought that there was something out in the world that would take my life up a notch in the qualitative experience of it, so I went out looking, and at the end of it all, it was still me with the same consciousness I had when I started. Free-spiritism without enlightenment will leave you aimless, because you're always looking for something to fill you up in the moment, but you don't know what it is, so life is reduced to a series of meaningless experiences, searching for an elusive sense of peace, transcendence, beauty, lightheartedness, fullness, satisfaction, euphoria, and perfection. You have to get to the point where you see that none of the experiences the world is trying to sell you can compete with the desires, lusts, beauty, musings, talents and inspiration within yourself that drive you towards your quest for happiness, fullness, and satisfaction. People are the same everywhere, some looking for the answers to life, some looking for adrenaline sensuous thrills, with most looking for more money, material things, entertainment, and comfort. Geography is the same everywhere. Every part of Earth has the sky above and the ground below. Some places have mountains, some have valleys, but it's like John Milton said, you can't be changed by place or time. Buildings are buildings. Museums contain a lot of useless old stuff that somebody deemed as important, but it's not important to me or the quality of my life. I didn't know this as a young man, so I was a well-intentioned clone, traveling around, going to museums, old buildings, and other tourist attractions looking for something. I still don't know exactly what I was looking for back then. I remember being on some can tour in London. They took us to some old church, I think it was Westminster Abbey, and said this is where Christopher Wren is buried. It still sticks out in my mind because at the time I thought it was so funny. Out of the blue, they were showing me some dead guy's mausoleum who I had never heard of before. This is supposed to be education and culture to make us more refined people. Refined for what? So I can dazzle people with my worldliness at cocktail parties? Why should I care? The absurdity of it all hit me. I was a sheeple following the flock. I've since realized that all that stuff did nothing to help me enhance my life. I had to go out, meet a lot of different people, see a lot of different places, buy a lot of consumer goods and do a lot of different things before I finally realized that none of it means anything next to the power, beauty, love, and lust in my own free spirit. Mind share is a concept I created for unenlightened people. How much of their minds do they own versus how much they have sold to the world marketing machine? Happiness is intense exertion for fun. Paul Gauguin and Vincent van Gogh were two French 18th-century artists who tried to make a go of it as friends, but they couldn't because of ideological differences. Van Gogh believed in hard work and great effort in expressing himself. Gauguin said all art is a dreamy fantasy, so enjoy the process and don't take it so hard that it becomes a tedious venture. Each of these guys had a piece of what constitutes happiness. You have to sweat to purge the natural energy in your soul, but you have to do it with love for the process, ride the flow of your life like a surfer rides a wave. This is the only way to get into your groove every day. The only people who are truly happy in the euphoric sense of the human spirit are people who purge the natural energy in their souls by doing something intense that awakens one of the following feelings or sensibilities within themselves. It's tough to do. Inspired. Sensuous. Loving. Stimulating. Exciting. Interesting. Absorbed in the activity to the point of loss of self-consciousness. Invigorating. Exhilarating. Creates euphoric sensations of ease and flow. Creates a sense of freedom and adventure. After this, financial security is good, to not have to worry about money all the time. Love is easy. Love whoever you're with, love yourself, and if you need more, get a pet. They give much more love than most people do. Many people are stuck at love. They think they need a soulmate to be happy and are sad without one, so they waste their lives looking for someone who they think will change their lives and make them happy. But even if you find a soulmate, you're still a loner, spending most of every day alone in your head. Intrinsic joy vs. the external reward system. No matter what happens, don't stop living as though you were a little kid exploring your natural thoughts and feelings. Our society is structured such that even the quest for career success and socio-economic status are an indirect search for love from the community at large. We want to be recognized and admired by others as talented, extraordinary people. Society is set up for you to chase the system of rewards. It goes back to grade school, when the people who got the best marks were rewarded with the most gold stars, and then we were ranked on our report cards from the student with the highest marks to the one with the lowest. In sports, I was told that it was all about winning. Never mind that for me it was all about purging my energy to feel good regardless of the score. I remember one time we lost the big final championship game. Some of the boys were tearing up in the locker room. I could have cared less. I purge my energy. I feel good. A free, enlightened person is not brainwashed to care about the score. I do the activity for its own sake. The prize is doing it. The score is just some bull created by neurotic people in order to play some artificial egotistical, superiority-inferiority game. You want people to see you as a special, important, elite person. This is why people buy much bigger houses than what they realistically need and drive much bigger, more expensive cars than what they need. They want attention, therefore love from others. The problem with all this massive cultural indoctrination is that it sets your way of thinking up to live on external rewards, rewards that other people give you. If you buy into it, you're not in control of your life, therefore not free. You're a stupid clone just like all the other asses buying into it. You haven't analyzed your life enough to realize they're all full of crap. It's about what you feel inside yourself, away from all these man-made artificial paradigms of life. It starts at school, where the paternalistic school board gives out certificates of achievement for academic success. Then it's all about getting into the best college, after which it continues right on into adulthood, where you desperately want to get promoted at work and move up in your socio-economic status. In Canada, where I'm from, They routinely give out an award called the Order of Canada where people go to Ottawa to get this medal pinned on them, then go to a cocktail party or some social function like that. To my way of thinking, it's like what a waste of 2 days of your life. You take a plane there, book a hotel room, then the next day spend several hours waiting in line to get your medal with about 20 or so other people in this boring ceremony, then there's some social function after which you take the plane back home. For what? Just to have Big Brother say you're a good citizen clone. If you're brainwashed by the system of external rewards, it's an ego stroke. For people like me, it's a big waste of time and can't compete with living my life freely doing what I want, following my true nature for those few days, but people line up en masse to go if they're told they're the recipient of this award. We're conditioned to be achievers according to the artificial values of the outside world so much that many of us base our self-worth on what we do out there. There are people who feel inferior all their lives because they never got a college degree or made middle management. They're living by other people's standards, not their own. They're failures at the art of great living. Follow your true nature the way God created you to be. Try to figure out a way to earn a living at it. Everything else is a vain attempt to get validation, attention, and admiration from others. Praise from the crowd is fleeting, both because after they cheer for you, they move on to the next thrill, and all people live alone in their own heads. You might give them a momentary thrill, but after that, they're back to their own self-centered thoughts. Why do has-been entertainers self-destruct? They relied on the applause from the crowd for their sense of ego, then when that was gone, there was no sense of self left. Why did Elvis turn into a fat wimp? He could have been a dashing middle-aged man. If you want to be loved by society, the truth is that nobody really gives a damn except for losers with no lives of their own, often called fans, which is short for fanatics. Everybody is thinking about the most important thing in their lives, themselves. Nobody's thinking about how fabulous you are because you're supposedly a star. They're thinking about supper, what's on TV, what time should they have their first beer, etc. Existential loneliness and looking for love. You'll always be alone, stuck in your own head. You can get close and intimate with your family and friends. You can share your life with the world through what you do. You can get 1,000 emails a week from admirers at a social website. You can find a new sex buddy on sex dating websites every night. You can do drugs and drink booze with your friends all the time. You can achieve celebrity status and a lot of people will know your name, but through it all, you will still be a loner stuck in your own head for most of every day. It's the human condition. Some people call it existential loneliness. Nobody will ever understand you or know who you really are the way you think in the privacy of your mind, not even your mother or your spouse. The way to live the greatest life possible is to earn your self-respect and a sense of well-being through what you do every day, and after that, get a little bit of love and pleasure from the few intimates in your life, which are usually pets because their love is much simpler and purer than most human relationships. When I first fell in love as a naive kid, I thought that something was supposed to change about my consciousness and state of mind permanently because I had been brainwashed by watching thousands of love movies and shows on TV all my life. They always ended with the happily ever after thing. With my first real love affair as a young man after the exaggerated, overly intense puppy love of the teen years, I went through that love-struck phase where you're walking on air because you're in love, but after 3 weeks at the most, physiologically the love hormones oxytocin and P get tired and stop shooting your body up to make you feel high. On top of that, I still had to go to school, work out, buy groceries and do other things. The first time I fell in love, it was really intense. This trend continued on throughout my 20s and some of my 30s, but then romantic love started losing its intensity for me. Now it's just another sensation of life, equal to a number of other sensations I experience. It's no big deal. I live a full life regardless of whether I'm single or in a romantic relationship. My point is that you can fall in love and go through all those fireworks, but then they're over and there you are, alone in your head, having to deal with your life again, even if you have this best friend and beautiful mate beside you. The fact that you're loved or not doesn't have much to do with culturing a constant euphoric sense of well-being about yourself, because there is only one way to genuinely feel good about yourself. You have to earn it by doing tough, challenging, inspired, noble, worthy things that make you feel proud of yourself. It's about self-respect. It's not a lack of deep, romantic love as the capitalist marketing machine would have you believe, because they want you to be neurotic and constantly buy more stuff to enhance your look and material status, in the mistaken belief that this will help you find a mate, but it won't help you find a true soulmate. Society tries to exploit people's existential loneliness by offering to sell them frivolous things to fill up their feelings of emptiness, but it never works, because the true challenge of life is to fill up your sense of existential loneliness by becoming the person your God created you to be. If you want love, this is your best chance of finding it, by being yourself, actively living your life, as opposed to trying to manufacture an image about yourself that you got from the capitalist pop culture world, or drowning your feelings of loneliness by becoming a self-pitying consumer spectator, always looking for something out there to fill you up for a minute or two. You can only find true love by finding a soulmate or kindred spirit. In order to attract someone who shares your free spirit, you have to be expressing it so that kindred spirits see and come to check you out. If you're a generic person working some generic job, you're conforming to some standard not inherent to you. People won't see what's really in your soul, so you'll end up marrying another generic person like yourself and never find a true soulmate. It's a great tragedy that nobody ever talks about it, that they married someone who was not a soulmate in the first place. Chapter 3. Don't buy into the bull of the world. New Age delusion. The energy flows through you from your divine source, your free spirit. There are two main lies that the New Age type gurus preach. The first is that by the law of attraction, the power of your intentions will get you what you want, because you emit some magical type of vibrations that the mystical, divine force of the universe hears, then grants you your wishes. The other lie is that we are all one, united as humanity. We are the family of mankind, a team of kindred spirits singing Kumbaya in front of the Lincoln Memorial and the Statue of Liberty while we build a big wall on the southern border. The truth is that we are not a happy, loving family. If we were, we would be looking out for the well-being of each other, but we are all individuals out for our own pleasure and comfort. At one end, we have elitist fat cats living in extreme luxury, while at the other end, thousands of people die every day of starvation and the lack of inexpensive medical treatment. The law of the jungle and the survival of the fittest rules among the human race. The people with the power exploit the powerless people to get what they can out of them so they can live luxurious, elitist lives. There's no sharing and caring going on. You can be certain of one thing, that these New Age gurus are making money selling their books and tapes to build a nest egg for themselves, which they ain't sharing with their fellow man. This is the hypocrisy of the New Age self-help industry. It's about selling hyped-up snake oil to stupid, naive people in order to make enough money to shield themselves from the hardships of life that most people lie by. It's not really about love, because if it was, everybody would give most of their material wealth away and live modest lives trying to help less fortunate people. All the psychobabble in the world about thinking positive thoughts and having good intentions means nothing if there's no action attached to it. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. That's why you shouldn't listen to all that lying New Age crap going around about the secret of good intentions or the power of intention and attraction, because everybody thinks they got good intentions, even the most despicable criminal in the world. So what? It's really funny with all this lying, scam law of attraction hype going around, why nobody ever mentions why our wise men of peace like Socrates, Jesus, Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Bobby Kennedy, and John Lennon all attracted assassination into their lives by their benevolent work. I seem to remember being taught in physics that like repels like. It doesn't attract it. A positive atom repels another positive atom. A negative atom repels another negative atom. They're trying to say there's some law in the universe where you give off certain vibrations from your thoughts and intentions, and in turn you attract the same vibrations to get abundance by some silly force only these slicksters know about. If this is true, why are so many artists starving? They have the greatest, dreamiest, most noble intentions of everybody. On top of that, everybody is self-centered enough to be always thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about you or your good vibes. They're thinking about themselves, so that law of attraction crap is a big lie geared to sell stupid people books, because people en masse generally don't care about your good intentions. They care about their own pleasure and comfort. If you can help them with that, good for you, but you'll never get the thanks and respect you think you deserve, because human nature starts at self-centered and goes to either good or bad depending on mood. If you don't believe me, you're a delusional fool. If you want true, unconditional love, get a pet and love it. The New Agers are telling you to think positive thoughts and have good intentions to get everything you want through some secret snake oil they sell called the law of attraction. Positive thoughts can be devastating because they set a lot of people up for depression when their capitalist pop culture delusions of grandeur don't come to pass. You can think all the positive thoughts you want about being a superstar athlete. If you just think those thoughts without action, you won't get there. If you think those thoughts, work your ass off and still don't become a superstar athlete, it's a combination of the lack of natural ability and the randomness of life that caused it. You're good, but so are a lot of other people. You didn't get picked for the team. You can think all the positive thoughts you want about being debt-free, but at the end of the day, week, month, or year, if you still owe money, you get depressed because your positive thoughts didn't erase the debt. Your actions are who you really are. Everybody claims to have great, noble intentions, even the laziest couch potatoes around, so what? That's why positive thinking is the big fake New Age gimmick. It sets you up to expect something. I create my life, therefore my thoughts through what I do day by day, not the other way around. You attract nothing to you by the illusory New Age laws of attraction. You create your sense of well-being through what you yourself do. The universe doesn't just give you what you want because you generate some vibrations through your thoughts. It's like get real. Live in the real world. If this was true, all the starving artists out there would be multimillionaires because, as a group, they have the greatest, most idealistic visions and ideas of anyone in society. If your life is the pits yet you constantly live in a Pollyanna-like delusion of rose-colored glasses where your life is a fantasy and you do nothing about it day by day but think those positive thoughts because some New Age guru said you would attract what you want, you're setting yourself up for a free fall in a moment of clarity and reality when you see that you're living a lame life of false hope based on fraudulent New Age lies. You are what you did in the past 10 years. Let's say you're an enlightened free spirit. You release most of the natural energy in your spirit every day. Multiply this by thousands of days. By the time you're 50, there's nobody left in your local area with a strong free spirit except for you and a few other enlightened people who live like you do. People wonder why they lose themselves, why they went from being good-looking, energetic, easygoing young people to become dull, middle-aged, overweight, pale, sickly, depressed frumps. It's pretty common to see someone you haven't seen in 20 years look much different than they used to look, skewed in the negative direction. The answer is simple. Imagine not using up your natural energy for thousands of days at a time. There's nothing left but a shell or a blimp. You only get inspiration and joy by releasing your natural energy all the time. Depression is not caused by some deep-rooted baggage buried in your past. That's the phony reason psychobablists give you so that they can make money off you prescribing drugs and holding endless psychotherapy sessions at over $100 a pop. The real reason all these middle-aged people are mundane and depressed is that they didn't release their natural energy for several thousand days in a row, so they lost a hold of that vital, strong spirit they might have once had when they were 22. This is the spiritual aesthetic sadness permeating prosperous, Western societies, but nobody seems to understand why all the career success, socioeconomic status, material stuff, and pop culture entertainment aren't enough to make us happy. Everybody you went to school with is a fading, overweight person with a flatline life, brainwashed by materialism and pop culture entertainment, that feels no natural euphoric joy because they don't do anything intense for the inspiration and fun of it. If you ever watch a team of husky dogs pulling a sled, most people think it's hard, unpleasant, tedious work, but if you look closer you'll see that they're smiling. They're in their element, doing what they were born to do, releasing that natural energy with joy for the process. This is their life force, their fountain of youth, their rejuvenation process one day at a time. The only happy people are active people. The happiness of getting high goes when the drug wears off. The happiness of passionate, strong love eventually gives way to a day-by-day connection based on how intimate the players are right now. Sex for me is gone right after I explode. Buy a big mansion or a shiny sports car. What can that do to make you feel happy and inspired about your life that's different than you living in a cottage driving a used car? It's all an illusion created by capitalism because life is lived through your spirit, not what you're surrounded by. The only thing you own is your free spirit. You either purge your natural energy every day to keep it strong or you don't. If you don't, you have no quality of life according to my free spirit standard. I thought psychology had answers, but I had them all along. When I was young, I thought there was an advanced group of people somewhere studying matters of life which they wrote about in all those psychology, self-help type books that started to come on the scene in the 1970s. I was looking for the answers to life. I got brainwashed to think that it was there in these formal system-sanctioned academic fields which were made up of well-researched, rigorous official system knowledge as well as the philosophical theories of past philosophers. I was intimidated by society's institutions to think that whatever they put out is the legitimate, dogmatic knowledge and wisdom of life, but it eventually exploded into oblivion when I saw that it was discrete bits of knowledge gained by doing what amounts to silly experiments that come nowhere near the pure, basic soul of man and how people live by intuition. It's simple. I am who I am the way I was born. God, the creator of all things, made me this way. He gave me intuitive, inherent wisdom that unfolded as I grew to maturity. I followed the nature he gave me in my purity as a human being, so now I'm enlightened and free. All the so-called knowledge the world produces in everything but the physical sciences is questionable at the very least and manipulative bull at its worst. It was all created by people hiding behind degrees and titles pretending they know something advanced, but if they're so advanced they would see that their social sciences are a little box they created for themselves and set off on a course to explore their lives for the unique experience it is based on what they feel within themselves that their creator gave them, but they don't. All the so-called gurus have their X number of steps, stages, or rules to a better life which even they don't follow because life as lived is a holistic affair, not some mechanical process to achieve linear goals, defined by capitalism, by following one-liner discrete strategies of life. I came to the realization that all this life advice/life management stuff is a fiction created to fool people into thinking these phony fields have the goods on life in order to make money off people and otherwise control them, because none of it addresses the way people really live, intuitively by what they feel within their spirits. About a decade after I came to this realization, I came across an interview with Thomas's on the radio, who has been speaking against the massive categorization of the human being since 1962 with the publication of his book The Myth of Mental Illness. But even though he has been at it for the past 50 years, he said they don't want to listen to him. Voices of truth are censored or shut out of mass media access, probably because the drug companies pay big bucks for advertising and the media outlets don't want to get their cash cow mad at them. The so-called professional people in the mental health industry would rather live in a delusionary state of denial and collect a paycheck than admit they're experts of meaningless verbal diarrhea. If a person is free and enlightened, he or she has no choice but to pursue the real truth of the human condition as they feel it, not buy into some psychobabble snake oil someone is selling. They've created massive fields of liberal arts knowledge and categorized the human into hundreds of parts and supposed mental illnesses, but it's all a lie because every individual has his own truth. Nobody has the right to judge anyone else if they're not hurting anybody, and life is not a fixed moment, therefore not a fixed diagnosis. So if someone diagnoses some person with a mental illness based on some test or subjective observations, the next day that person might not be feeling like that label, yet multi-millions of people fall for it and take the drugs given to them to supposedly cure these mental illnesses. The big deception in the modern world of mental health is that you are not responsible for your weaknesses and failings as a human being. They are caused by a traumatic experience of childhood, like being abused, which almost every defendant's lawyer of a serious crime brings up in his or her trial. A biochemical imbalance in the organic, physiological brain that an individual was born with. They can't do anything about it, so they're not responsible for their less than stellar performance as a human being. These are total lies geared to make the mental health industry more appealing to the mainstream, who find it easier to seek treatment now that they were told that a lot of their negative behaviors are beyond their control, but they're not. It's all a grand scheme to sell mental health drugs and therapy. The truth of life is that you create it as you live it, day by day. You not only create your own thoughts and actions, what you do and think also causes the release or non-release of endorphins and neurotransmitters in your brain. This creates your biochemistry, which determines your basic mood and attitude day by day. Back in the day, people lived through the Depression, the war, and concentration camps. They had no time to feel traumatized and contemplate their misery through therapy. They had to find a job to earn money to survive. Personally speaking, I live every day as I experience it. I'm not nostalgic about the past, and I can barely remember it anyway. I've had some tough situations when I was young, but they're long gone now. I can barely remember them unless somebody brings them up. It's just the big lie to connect your past with who you are right now in order to suck money out of you in therapy sessions. Drugs can't cure anything in the mind, because almost all mental problems people have are the result of disharmonious spirits. They don't live by their true natures. They betray themselves by following the artificial values of the world, then wonder why, despite reaching all the markers of success in a capitalist world, they still feel empty inside. This emptiness causes most of the anxiety, addictions, and depression in the world. The biochemical imbalance theory is a big lie, because psychiatrists can't measure neurotransmitter levels in the brain unless they do an invasive spinal fluid extraction. Even then, every individual has their own baseline. You can't tell who has an inherent biochemical deficiency which physiologically makes them sad. We create our own biochemistries through how we live and what we do. I grant the fact that some sadness is caused by tragedies, but life goes on. If sadness goes on day after day, it's the person's fault for being a wimp, getting down on himself, sitting around not releasing his natural energy, not some lie of a biochemical imbalance beyond his control. It's a great excuse to take the blame off the individual for causing his or her own misery, but it's not true. It's a great way to sell drugs and psychotherapy which do not solve the weaknesses in people's spirits. Learn from your cat or dog. They live every day to release their natural energy. If they don't, such as if the caretaker keeps them cooped up or chained all the time, they will get fat and depressed or skinny from the stress. The real problem virtually all the time is that we lost our natural sense of inspiration. We either get it back or stay in our pits, regardless of how many antidepressant drugs we take or how many psychotherapy sessions we ramble through. Most of us have money problems because we live above our means. That can be solved easily by stepping down a few steps in luxuries to live a more basic lifestyle based on positive things, not frivolous desires. Many people have love and relationship problems. Regardless of how close you are to somebody else, they can't give you a strong spirit soaring in flight. You have to create it on your own. Love, money, or psychobabble can't solve the problem of human existence. The only thing that can is the individual connecting to his free spirit, which connects him to his divine creator. What's love got to do with it? You got three major problems of life. Taking care of basic, practical needs. Being happy with yourself. Having loving relationships with people you want to be close to. If you're happy within yourself, relationships should be no sweat. Pass some of your happiness on. I think one of the biggest unexplored reasons for broken marriages and relationship problems is that people are messed up, which to me means that they're not living by their true natures, so they're not in harmony with themselves. Because they're not in harmony with themselves as individuals, they can't be loving in a pure, simple way. Care enough about your life to strive to be true to who you are purely, not what you were brainwashed to be. If you can live like that, relationships should be easy because they're just an afterthought to your main allegiance of honoring who you are. After you release the natural energy in your soul on any given day, you should be feeling good. You want to pass some of your love on simply without drama or psychobabble. Frustrated people, angry with their own lives, use relationships as a dumping ground for their problems of individual identity. I don't have those problems. I never give anyone a hard time. If someone gives me a hard time, I'm gone. I don't deal with them. It's really simple. People who love each other don't give each other a hard time. You have to find friends and lovers who aren't gonna dump some of their anger at life on you. A lover can enhance your happiness if you're already happy by yourself alone, but if you're not happy by yourself as an individual, a relationship won't magically enhance your state of being. Who's got game? All the knowledge I possess everyone else can acquire, but my heart is all my own. Goethe, 1749–1832. What do you do that invigorates you? Why do people like Michelangelo and Thomas Edison live long lives? Because they're following their true nature. If you're tapped into your natural primal divine source, you always know how to live. An enlightened free spirit experiences all this massive indoctrination during their formative years, but starts peeling it away one institution at a time until they're left like Stephen Dedalus in James Joyce's Portrait of an Artist as a young man, alone with their existential solitude, answering to no one but themselves. The world is a circus of ideas not inherent to who you really are. Nobody knows what anyone else is really thinking, so nobody has anything on you in understanding the human condition, even though a lot of people think they do and present themselves as life experts, psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, gurus, counselors, life strategists, or some other foolish title like that because they took some low-level courses at some college somewhere that obviously didn't help enlighten them, because if it did, they would reject this fake ideology of disjointed, discrete, convoluted knowledge called the social sciences, which is sanctioned as our official, formal wisdom about life, but it's nowhere near the true nature of the human condition. Who did your Creator, God, create you to be in your purest archetype? What could possibly be more interesting and right than following this? There's no reason for anybody to change as you age. You are who you are by birth. At about 23 to 28, you should have the most vitality, inspiration, and strength you should ever have in life, because you're physically as strong as you can possibly be. Happiness is a fluid commodity. It does not occur after you achieve some idea of a milestone in your life. Happiness, in the sense of accessing the higher reaches of the human condition, can only happen if an individual busts their butt, so to speak, in releasing their natural energy day by day, every day. That's what really makes you high. Give it your all in doing something you love to do. Once you have enough money to cover your bills, trying to find more happiness with more money is like trying to fill a bucket up with more water than it can hold. Money and material things can only make you happy to the point of feeling financially secure. After that, if you want euphoric highs in your life, you have 4 options: love, sex, inspired pursuits, and intoxicants. Love is a nice feeling that you have to culture with your intimates day by day. You spend at most 1 hour per day locked in a metaphoric passionate embrace with your most loved intimate in the world. Most of us spend much less time tuned in on the same wavelength as our soulmates or loved ones. Sex is nice, but it doesn't matter how many missiles you shoot off a day. It's still not who you are in your life force. You can't find happiness through sex alone. It's a pleasant afterthought, icing on the cake next to your real life, which is what else you do all day long during your waking hours. You have to release your sexual energy, otherwise your body forces it out when you sleep in order to make room for newly created sex hormones, but at the most you can only spend a small percentage of your time there for your thoughts and energy engaged in the activity. The rest of the time you're alone. The few enlightened people on the planet eventually get past what they were brainwashed by during their formative years to discover that they have an inner standard or inner sense of accountability within themselves. Life is the same principle as with the release of bodily fluids. Keep your wastes and your sexual energy inside, unreleased, and you soon start to feel terrible. Release them and you feel better. It's the same with chi or the life force. Release it and you get the light, free, powerful feeling. Don't release it and you end up another overweight mundane consumer spectator on the scrap heap of humanity. Some of us have intense bouts of romantic love usually when we're young, but it wears off. Unless you plan to fall in love several or more times in your life, the euphoria, joy, and transcendence of life cannot be found in romantic love, because there are finite limits as to how romantic you can be before your soulmate or lover tells you to back off for a while to give them time to breathe. Sex is great, but it's momentary. Normal men with some vitality have to constantly release this energy at least once to X number of times every day if they want to stay loose and not build up stress, but even then it's just a momentary release. It still can't touch the engine that runs your life, your aesthetic spiritual life soul force. Happiness is the result of a sustained release of the free spirit. We all have a free, natural sensuous carnal side, or at least a hedonistic side. It's great to have your fun, drink alcohol, do drugs, go to strip joints, eat ice cream, watch movies, gossip with your friends, go on MySpace or whatever it is you like to do for pleasure. But if you do these things without honoring an inner sense of accountability you should naturally intuitively feel within your free spirit, you really have no quality of life to speak of. You will eventually degenerate into self-contempt. It happens to all addicts, couch potatoes, and everybody else with a generic, average, mundane, passive consumer lifestyle not tapped into their souls. You have a baseline of happiness directly proportional to how strong your spirit is. You can measure the strength of your spirit by how much of your natural energy you release day by day over time. The longer you do this, the stronger you get. The emotions of happiness and sadness are influenced by tragedies, bad luck, and relationship problems, but the heart of a person's state of well-being is how much they honor themselves by releasing their natural energy with gusto every day. At the core of your being, there's just you, a naked, pure soul with your own inherent standard of life. Chapter 4. You own your body and soul, that's it? Free spiritism is a meld of aesthetics and inspiration. Endless curiosity is probably the most important thing anyone can have. You get game through sweat equity. You get power through action. You earn. It's something you know within yourself. Everything is primal. The only power you got is primal power. It's not in the car you drive or your position at company X. It's in what you feel and do every day, which gives you your body and face, which tells everybody what you're really all about. Look at the relationship between you and your pets. They never speak, but you still understand each other. Your dog doesn't wear big, fancy suits or drive a certain brand of car to tell you who he is. He doesn't have to. It's all about his spirit and the two of you relating on a primal level. If some guy looks like a snivelling wimp but he's touted as the latest guru of the moment, you know it's a con job. All his deep thinking apparently didn't make him the dynamic, strong, powerful buck with an easygoing, peaceful way about himself that he really wants to be like. Hype can sell anything, and then they try to shroud it in an aura of mysticism so that if you miss the point, they point the finger back at you and imply you're not wise, free, and enlightened enough to understand their deep concepts, when the truth is that it's a pile of meaningless psychobabble bull from the get-go. Moving the body has a freeing effect on you that makes you feel strong, powerful, and free. If you don't believe me, try dancing sometime, alone in your room with your favorite music turned up if you're too self-conscious to do it at your local dance bar. You always feel good after you do it. Do you understand exactly why? It's the spirit of free spiritism. Your body releases endorphins that go to your brain to make you feel anywhere from good to great. Your brain releases endorphins too that make your body feel energetic and vital. If you keep sitting around doing nothing, it spirals in on you. Feelings of generic mundanity spiral down into depression as you feel more sorry for yourself, and your mind paints the bleakest picture possible for you, an aging, homeless man or woman who doesn't even have the guts to face people enough to ask them for a job. When you go through a tragedy or bad luck, It's always the same story. There's shock, hurt, a pity party for one, then after a while, you either accept it or die inside. If you accept it, you're right back to the same old story of life. You're either trying to be actively inspired or you're a passive, generic wimp. There's nothing more to life than that at any moment. You're either honoring your natural spirit or you're not. The solution to all the misery and depression in the world is simply to move. Do something, anything. Depression pills and psychoanalysis don't work. They're a big con job. They can't help a problem of the human soul. I've written a book about it if you're interested. I think the best life is a mix of inspired activities to try to do something useful for others. Sensual hedonistic loving pleasures of the flesh. The purpose of life is to examine yourself and pursue whatever truth, beauty, sensuality, love, and natural talents you find in there. Presuming you come from a family that wasn't always worried about making enough money to pay bills and you were given the freedom to explore your life, by the time you were 5 years old, you should have been already going in the direction of your true nature, naturally drawn to the few activities you really like to do in life. But then you went to school where life is reduced to about 8 subjects and you're taught to compete in everything from academic grades to sports rather than doing things for the fun of it because you like to do them like you did before you went to school. This is capitalist brainwash, to set you on the path where you're competing with everybody else in everything even if it's not overtly so. This mindset creates great workers always trying to outdo one another, great business moguls who'll do anything to crush the competition, great scientists who want to beat everyone else in trying to discover a cure for cancer, but they're all doing it for the wrong reasons. People are constantly looking for the next thrill on TV, but the greatest show ever can't compete with doing something intense and inspired. You have to do what you love to earn a living, otherwise it's like you're spinning your wheels. It doesn't matter what you accomplish according to world standards by doing something you're not particularly interested in, such as making a lot of money or getting a high status position. You're no different than a dog. If he gets to do what he was born to do, which is to run around and explore the stuff around him, he feels pretty good. If he doesn't, he gets a gnawing, empty feeling inside. He sits in the house or chained up feeling unfulfilled, then after a while he gives into to this helpless feeling and lives by it. He loses his natural spark. He gets like this through not following his true nature day after day. First he gets mundane and lethargic. He reacts to the stress of his artificial lifestyle by either gaining or losing weight. He'll act out his frustrations by either being angry and aggressive or retreating into himself. Over time, he'll eventually lose his connection to his true nature, becoming pacified and depressed. This is the story of life for any human being who takes on the artificial values of the world while letting his or her true nature rot away. To my way of thinking, there's one basic natural archetype that everybody was born with. As you develop consciousness, you naturally see yourself as physically strong, vital, beautiful, intelligent, inspired, sensuous, loving and happy in the aesthetic sense. If you're following who you were born to be, you feel good, kinda like you're riding a free-flowing adventure of life. This is what I naturally felt as a kid. Why should anyone feel any different? Even children born with disabilities still feel pretty good as they are and get along pretty good with what they got despite the nuisance of the handicap, until society comes in and starts to indoctrinate them into feeling deficient and inferior. We're all born with a potential for living a good to great life with what we got, but somewhere along the way most of us either get brainwashed or we're too weak to put in the effort it takes to stay inspired and feeling good about our lives, because it's so much easier to follow the system rather than trying to follow ourselves as individuals. You were born with one natural archetype. It's good, happy and strong. Everything is a lie except for that one archetype you got in your head, or at least had in your head when you were young, strong, idealistic, and probably naive. True art is trying to transcend life by trying to create a moment of perfect beauty or profound truth that captures the higher reaches of the human spirit and frees the artist from the bondage of life in the physical, real world by purging his unique message out of himself. James Joyce gave me the image of the artist freeing himself from the mundanity of life in that beach scene where Stephen Dedalus is throwing off his past running on the beach watching the seagulls soaring pure and free. It's nice to be inspired by great works of truth, beauty, and perfection by kindred spirit enlightened masters out there, but everything fades as you find yourself alone facing your own internal standard of creating truth, beauty and perfection in your own way. The typical brainwashed life. I started out like any well-intentioned kid in grade school. I wanted to succeed within the system, so I went to college and became a teacher, whereupon I tried to live a yuppie lifestyle, which is all about working a so-called professional job, buying material things I didn't need in order to match some illusion of a cool, successful lifestyle I got brainwashed by from the capitalist system, mass media, and pop culture entertainment I was brought up to believe in and live by. My life became a routine, working every day, trying to move up the career ladder, making money so I could buy more material things I didn't need and upgrade my house and car every few years. After about a decade of this, I was about as empty as I had ever been in my life. I knew I couldn't go on doing this because it would mean a spiritual death and a wasted life for me. At the time, I didn't really understand what was happening to me, I just knew I was dying inside. I quit my job, went out into the world seeking enlightenment, excitement, adventure, and fun. I did the proverbial hero's journey that Joseph Campbell talked about in his writings about the myths of the human condition. Myths in general are allegories about people leaving their homes to seek fame, fortune, and adventure out in the world, but the underlying theme of most myths are about the individual discovering who they really are after they peel off all the layers of their cultural conditioning to see themselves as pure, naked souls away from all that stuff they were brought up to believe in. This is the message I've seen in virtually every myth and legend I've ever read. It's not about what's going on out in the world. It's about an individual discovering who they really are in spite of the outside world they're surrounded by. They fight dragons, demons, and witches and otherwise get cut to pieces by the evil and adversity out in the world, then like the phoenix rising from the ashes, they slowly get back up and regenerate, a little wiser, more cynical, bruised and stronger than before. The thing is that now they're too wise to get sucked in by the charlatans of the world. They are individuals alone, trusting only themselves. The outside world is just the setting or the stage through which an individual discovers the true meaning of life, which is to discover their true identity, who they really are, then live by it. That's what life comes down to. Who were you born to be by nature? Who are you in the midst of all the archetypes and possibilities out in the world and within your free thoughts? The adventure of life out in the world always has the same outcome for the hero or the protagonist of any great, noble story. He sheds his naive idealism and deluded, indoctrinated false beliefs to see that the world is nowhere near the rosy picture he was brought up to believe in. The hero goes out and sees how people really live, including the poor, the exploited, the desperate, the crazy, the wealthy, the elitists, the arrogant, the powerful and the criminal element. Then, like Scrooge in the Christmas Carol, he has an awakening. There's goodness inside of him. He will follow it by his own code. He will not be swayed or manipulated by anything out in the world anymore. He will follow himself purely and freely and do the right thing within his own conscience. Once you know the world is more Machiavellian than Pollyanna, you know that every organization, institution, and human being has the potential for evil, often in the name of good, so you don't have any utopian vision left anymore. You're now free to pursue the only thing you know for sure in this life, which is the purity you feel within yourself. This is the final outcome of every true hero's journey. The individual discovers every person and every institution is fallible, so he or she reverts to trusting only themselves, knowing who they are and honoring it. I traveled and met a lot of people until I realized that planet Earth is the same everywhere geographically, meaning that the sky is blue, the sun rises every day, trees are green and the earth is brown, so traveling lost its luster for me. Then I realized that people are the same everywhere. Human nature starts at self-centered and cycles to good or evil depending on a person's mood. There are very few people at either extreme of goodness or badness. Most of us are a gray mixture of good and bad, operating by our base emotions. Everybody, except for the most evil people, thinks they're kind, warm, and good. Just about everyone has been brainwashed by capitalism. If we were really as good as we like to think we are, we would share what we have and all the world's domestic problems would have been solved by now, but instead we live in a cutthroat world where people rob, plunder, exploit and kill each other for a few dollars, then try to build big houses with lots of security so they can hoard their wealth in peace. That's what's going on out in the world that no classroom can teach you. When I was free to do what I wanted without a job, day after day I found myself doing the same few things over and over again. These are what I call my inspired pursuits. They're mostly physical activities and creative intellectual pursuits. After this, I have some sensual hedonistic desires like any normal person, and I like to give love and get some back. Inspiration is derived from the words inspirited. Being inspired simply means that you're interested, excited, enthusiastic, stimulated and thrilled by what you're doing. There's no logical reason for what inspires you. It's an affair of your inherent free spirit. You're born that way. The problem is that in a world where other people's ideas are constantly assaulting you, first of all, you have to get over everything they're telling you to believe only in yourself as the instrument of your destiny. Then you have to find the few things in life that you're naturally drawn to. Satisfaction is to know what's primal and divine about you and release it all the time. It's about what you do every day to feel good about yourself, to be true to your nature, to be inspired, sensual and loving. The physical body is all anyone really owns. Wise people take care of them. Enlightenment was swift and simple. I realized I'm still the same person I was at 5 years old. My consciousness, the emotional holistic way I think, should be the same throughout my entire life. Self-respect, self-honor, nobility and strong spirit. There are two very clear separate boxes of life. What I'm all about purely and freely. What the world is about and trying to indoctrinate me with. Just about everybody is buying into some artificial value, concept, or idea from out in the world. It's no different than the big screen in the novel 1984 by George Orwell, where everybody was interested in the phony war going on out there somewhere in TV land. Our leaders tell us that we're fighting over there for freedom, justice, democracy, and the American way, but it's really about making money for the fat cats who supply the equipment and weapons for war. Your soul houses your most perfect visions of beauty. We're flawed mortal human beings, but if you don't live for the possibilities within yourself, you got nothing. You have no life. If you're just some overweight consumer watching TV, you're nowhere. Your true nature has lots of noble, great stuff in it and lots of selfish, carnal stuff in it too. I'm perfectly aware of the whole me. I know how good, noble, primal, self-centered, and selfish I am. I don't deny my violent and sexual thoughts when I get them. I don't consider myself evil. I know that I can't impose my base, negative qualities onto other people if I want to have friends and stay out of jail, so I control them like most people do. I have a rich fantasy life, as I suspect all people have to some extent, both G and X-rated, but most of us are functional enough to know other people don't want to deal with our fantasies. Your life should be a free exploration of who you are because you were born that way by nature. Discover what's good inside of you, pass it on to both earn a living and share your life with other people, and don't hurt any living thing. There's a big bohemian, romantic, aesthetically inspired world of fantasy, lust, fun, adventure, and creativity inside of everyone. Young people have this grace period where they look good without trying, and since good looks are equated with goodness and strength, other people think they're strong and noble even if they're not. I've known plenty of girls who were stunning at 20 with that mundane, generic middle-aged look by 40. You know they lost something, but what exactly did they lose? They lost their youthful spirit, a kind of inner strength where you're connected to the purity you were born with. Most people lose it by early middle age. The only way to keep a strong hold of it is to release your God-given store of natural energy every day. But who does that? A few artists, farmers, athletes, teachers, musicians, dancers, hikers, nature outdoor people, activists, enlightened free spirits, and that's about it. Writers don't count because they're cerebral. They just sit there. By the time we're 40, all those years of living give us the faces and bodies we deserve. Everybody has faded away except for the few people who live by self-respect with strong spirits. Think of yourself at 5 years old. That's about as real as most people ever get, because after that, the school system gets its hooks into you. The archetypes of the ideal human beings to me are Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. They were two strong, healthy, natural, primal people living close to nature, using their brains and skills to live bountiful lives. God punished them in the book of Genesis for going their own way too far, but to my way of thinking they were just following the natural curiosity that He, God, gave them. I live by what I feel in my free spirit. It's all good as long as I don't let. I was looking through the American Psychological Association's website, apa.org, the other day. I couldn't stop shaking my head about how they created this massive industry of supposedly understanding human behavior out of thin air. It's all about expanding this field, no different than expanding any product line in the capitalist world in order to make more money and give themselves the illusion of more credibility. There's nothing in the social sciences that I, as a lone individual living anywhere, even in a cave like my ancient ancestors did, can't equal or supersede through my own examination of my life. Whatever was written before 1950 may have some wisdom to it, like Socrates' Know Thyself, Plato's Philosopher King, and Ayn Rand's Reverence for Oneself, but these people have no conception of the potential life I have the possibility to live in a technologically modern world. Whatever was written since 1950 within the academic system of the social sciences has an iatrogenesis element to it, the creation of fake, meaningless, or trivial knowledge to expand the academic field, to give it more legitimacy, much like a company expands its product line even if the new products don't add anything to the functionality of the main product. Life is spirit. All you have to do is figure out the spirit within yourself, then honor it. Money is good. It can give you the means and the security to live by your free spirit, but if you work a job that makes you sad, tired, and crushes the free spirit inside of you bit by bit, day by day, you lose at life. Living by values other than your true nature is like putting on an expensive designer, high-fashion shirt, or the jacket from your football team. You look like all the other guys trying to be cool, trendy in crowders, but underneath the shirt it's still the same you. Our technologically advanced societies are screwed because we exchanged our true natures for gadgets, machines, pop culture entertainment, video games, hair color, brand name clothes, and artificial lifestyles, sitting in front of screens instead of living close to what we feel within ourselves and close to nature in general. Chapter 5. Enlightenment is natural inspiration. Losing your vital spark is the tragedy of life. Many people don't know why they feel anywhere from average to mundane to miserable all the time. They think it's due to a lack of money, not having enough status out in the community, or relationship problems, but at the core, it almost always comes down to the loss of the vital spark within themselves. You lose yourself one day at a time by not releasing the natural energy in your free spirit. After a year or two, your body and spirit get weak because you're not working them, so they go to inertia. I was talking to my lawyer buddy from college the other day. He told me he doesn't play his guitar anymore like he used to. It just kind of faded away. I saw another buddy last summer. We were kindred spirits, not in a gay way but in a spiritual way, because we were both hooked on tough physical activity and the use of mind-altering substances. We used to go swimming every day in the summer when we were teenagers. I told him I still swim. He said he hasn't done it once this year. Most of my friends and acquaintances from 25 years ago now have graying hair and are at least 20 pounds overweight. They got that mundane, faded look, like their lives are a generic flatline. They lost whatever they might have once had that was alive, beautiful, strong, and vital. Can you stay inspired all your life? Your state of mind, therefore your life, is more influenced by how naturally inspired you are than anything else. Money, love, or a belief in God can't touch this natural love or joy for your life if you have it. If you don't know how to be naturally inspired about your life, You're missing the whole point of being alive. Many people have a lost, empty soul that got that way because they never bothered to explore their lives freely enough to discover their true natures, then live to honor them day by releasing their natural energy to that end. Instead, they either bought into one illusion or another from the world or lived a consumer spectator lifestyle, always looking to be entertained by something new in pop culture entertainment or buying frivolous stuff at the mall. God gave you self-accountability. You intuitively know when you're honoring yourself and when you're betraying yourself. You just know you feel empty but haven't figured out why. There's only one way to get rid of it. It's called inspired action from the soul. I equate happiness with euphoria. I get euphoric by the intense release of my natural energy in all its facets, inspired, physical, creative, intellectual for me. Maybe that's not inspired for you, sensual, hedonistic and loving. Where's joy? In the natural things I do or what I buy at the store. I've been on cruise ships and at amusement parks. I could care less next to doing something that releases either my inspired, sensuous or loving energy. I've been with elderly people who have paid their dues by working all their lives and don't seem to understand that life is a constant creation, expression, and release of the natural inspired energy in their free spirits. They just sit there reading books, watching TV, playing golf, or bingo. This is societal brainwash defining their lives for them. I've been with wealthy middle-aged friends and relatives who had big houses and plenty of money, but when I got closer and talked to them, every last one of them had a kind of anxiety. They were all worried about their businesses falling apart. They feel compelled to work all the time in order to gain some illusory sense of security that I feel is brainwash from capitalist ideology, since our true material needs are minimal and life is lived one day at a time. Some people argue that business is an end in itself as an inspired activity, much like an artist pursuing his craft. I tend not to agree because I feel that true inspiration is more romantic, aesthetic, hedonistic, noble, natural, primal, and intense. Life is an adventure of my transient time here, right now. I live to do what I feel is natural, right, and good for me, and feel a lot of the higher reaches of human sensations every day. Attitude without action or a time-tested history of action is fake hype, so what? You can look in the mirror and tell yourself you're beautiful and great all you want. All of this self-talk bundled together over a year can't match one tough workout for enhancing the strength in your spirit. Thoughts by themselves can't sustain you. They're just fantasies. You have to set your spirit soaring on high through what you do. You have to match that standard you feel within yourself of who you want to be by doing it one day at a time. You have to give anywhere from good to great effort, and you can never stop. You can't just sit there and say, "Oh, I'm so happy, the birds are singing, life is great." So what? It like some dude talking about the power of now. Anybody takes one look at him and they know this guy is no champion of human life. You can't be happy and overweight at the same time. It's the same thing if you sit around and watch TV or read meaningless fictional stories for the bulk of the day. Your soul is constantly telling you you're out of harmony with yourself, wasting your life, giving it up to slothful pursuits. Positive thinking and positive intentions will not make you a champion at life, nor will a great spirit from the universe give you what you want just because you willed it so with good intentions, like all that phony secret stuff suggests. It's all capitalism, selling books to stupid people. In the capitalist world, nobody cares about your intentions, they care about your results. All those business school graduates every year aren't out to help the world. They're out to make money. If it means helping people to get what they want in order to get rich, they do it. The customer doesn't care if you're greedy or good as long as he gets the best product for the best price. Just release the free spirit inside of you. God gave you that potential power. Your job is to make it happen. All them steps, stages and strategies they're always coming up with fail because they have no unifying force behind them. It's impossible to live by them. You weren't made to be a robot following a bunch of disjointed rules. You're a human spirit living as a holistic consciousness. That special, good, comfortable feeling. People in general are desperately looking for a special, good, comfortable feeling. They're looking for love in all the wrong places, getting into relationships with people they don't really love. They join religious churches, political parties, and New Age groups. They watch TV and become friends with the intimate strangers on the screen. They buy the stuff they see on TV commercials. They eat too many hot dogs, drink too much alcohol, do drugs, and take pills looking for something to fill them up right now. They talk too much about nothing in particular, use all kinds of cosmetics and anti-aging products, and have illusions that making more money and buying more material things will somehow give them a more comfortable, secure feeling. All addictions come from the same thing. You're looking for a transient feeling to make you feel good right now. They can't sustain you day after day, forever. If you're in a relationship with somebody who's not a soulmate, you're always feeling some uncertainty in the back of your mind that the illusion of love will come crashing down at any time. In my own experiences in analyzing people I come across, I strongly intuitively sense that most are in less than soulmate relationships. Know who you are and live by it. I'm not sentimental about recapturing that special feeling I had at midnight mass on Christmas Eve a long time ago when I was a kid, feeling that I was a part of a united group of people all sharing our lives for the common good of each other. Now that I'm all grown up, I realize that you spend most of your time alone in your head. Everybody else spends most of their time alone in their heads. In the purest sense, all you got is you and a bunch of delusions about what society is. The purer you live by what is divine in you, and the less you buy into all the illusions that the world is trying to sell you and otherwise control you with, the better life you'll live. Don't buy into all those impossible ideals about living in service to others that religious, New Age, psychobabble leaders and other charlatans are trying to sell you. There are very few saints out there. The ones that are saintly are the ones in the trenches helping people with an attitude of, by the grace of God there go I. They're not the ones talking big on TV. It's easy to act saintly and noble when you're sitting pretty on TV with a well-rehearsed speech like some of them preachers and New Age gurus, but what do you do when no one is looking or your comfort level is pulled out from underneath you? The pursuit of pleasure and carnal hedonism are normal parts of human nature. Chaucer was laughing at the hypocrisy of the clergy and the other pillars of the community over 1,000 years ago in his Canterbury Tales. Despite the pretenses, nobody is above human nature. You can't just act like you're holier than your animal instincts by not acknowledging that they exist. You have to know what you like in the sensual primal sense, what you must control, and where the line is between pleasing yourself and doing something worthy with your life. This is more realistic than all those phonies I see preaching high-minded living, which are artificial values next to what's in your free spirit. Don't fall for anything out in the world. Listen to yourself. Your God gave you your own wisdom. That's all you need. You can have the most fascinating moment of enlightenment ever, but it will fade. People who claim to have had near-death experiences, seen ghosts, seen God, etc. lose the intense transformative euphoria after a few days. You can't sustain strong inspiration with memories. You have to live it every day. We're all fellow travelers of humanity on planet Earth, but we're all alone with our own burdens, thoughts, and agendas. I've noticed that in virtually everything I've ever written, I always say the same thing over and over again. There are only a few things that any of us are really obsessed with or interested in. Explore it by writing. You'll repeat yourself many times. Live your life to honor who you feel you were born to be. There is always hope. Just start doing things. All addictions come from the same cause. You feel empty inside. You want to feel better right now, so you get addicted to something to constantly give yourself transient pick-me-ups. It could be anything from chocolate to drugs, but they never work because the problem is one of the lost, bleeding, empty soul. This is the real mental illness of our modern society. It's a big money grab for the so-called mental health experts to pretend we have neatly defined organic mental illnesses beyond our control as individuals that they can clearly diagnose, then manage with drugs and therapy just like a physical medical illness. Life is much more primal than that. You create your own life, biochemistry, and state of being minute by what you do and how you think. Drugs or psychotherapy can't help a person's aesthetic spiritual sensibilities. That's why they don't work. That's why the mental health industry is largely a bust except for people who have real organic brain damage. That's why all those people on depression drugs going to regular therapy sessions are still depressed. The problem is usually that the individual has lost whatever inspiration, power, and beauty he or she might have had at one time, so they go into a permanent mourning for this lost vision of youth and beauty. If you read about King Solomon ranting about his sad life in the book of Ecclesiastes in the Jewish Torah or Christian Bible, you should immediately see that he lost his vital spark by not purging his natural energy on a regular basis. He did not know that this is the key to the greatest life possible. All his money, concubines, palaces, treasures, and even his wisdom couldn't help him, so he cursed life as an aging man with a lost soul. We have this guy who was praised as the richest, wisest man of his day, but he lost his sense of inspired vitality, which meant he lost the most important thing in life, to feel good about yourself through what you do and how you live. All prolonged depression originates from the same cause: you do not release your natural energy for prolonged periods of time. A death, divorce, or serious illness might trigger the depression, but you sustain it by sitting on your ass doing nothing. Unused energy inside of you makes you mourn for your lost self. You lost whatever might have been strong, beautiful, noble, and free about you at one time, so you feel sad and sit around even more, sorrow for yourself. Your only rules are to earn enough money to pay your way and don't hurt other people, animals, or nature. After that, your life is yours. Final rants. I am not my memories of my life in the past. I am not my dreams and worries about the future. I am who I am right now based on how much of my natural energy I release day by day. If I express most of the energy in my spirit, I feel anywhere from good to great. If I don't, I feel anywhere from average to sad. Preferably, you figure out a way to earn a living through doing what you love to do, but even if you can't, you must release this inner natural energy if you want to feel good about your life. Don't pick a career that you're not passionate about just for status and money. Don't marry someone for any reason other than love. If you do, you'll pay with the stress of not following your true nature. They have cheerleaders for the capitalist success ideology through the one-dimensional self-help, motivational, life coach experts and gurus out there who all have the same shtick. They offer you anywhere from 4 to 25 of their mind tools, life strategies, rules, steps, tips, or stages to success in the capitalist world, pretending they have some magical, advanced knowledge from the scientific study of human behavior, but it's all a lie. A human being cannot follow these artificial, mechanical rules they come up with because firstly, they go against the true intuitive natures we were born with. You weren't created to follow some formula for one-dimensional success that tells you to set some goals and follow them day by day, because life as you live it is a flowing blend of emotion, intuition, inspiration, hedonism, carnal desires, and love, with rational logic being a distant last. Life as lived is not some cut and dry affair where you can neatly follow 10 life strategies, 12 life makeover rules, or 7 steps to a better you. You come across situations all the time where your rules don't apply. They can't help you make a decision. You have to make it now with your own intuition. Your way of thinking and living is not some one-dimensional, cut and dry path to capitalist success. You live by your emotions minute by minute, day by day. You just can't write down some list of 6 steps to get the ultimate edge that some knucklehead masquerading as a life expert in a stupid infomercial created, then pull it out every few hours to help you decide what to do next. There's no advanced mind reprogramming technology that exists anywhere on the planet that can sincerely help you. You can go back as far as Dale Carnegie and his power of positive thinking to the latest slick self-empowerment infomercial on TV and examine them all. Happiness is a natural feeling you get when you're proud of yourself because of what you've done on any particular day. You can't engineer it. It's a natural, spontaneous emotion that mostly comes as a result of inspired effort to do something that you deem tough, challenging, or worthwhile. Happiness to me is a sense that I'm freeing myself from the general mundanity of the human condition by doing something tough or inspired that takes me up to a higher state of consciousness. The human being is the same as he was in Plato's time. Human nature is still basic. Remember the stories The Emperor's New Clothes and The Wizard of Oz. They were about illusions masquerading as truth. The drug industry, the book industry, the mass media and the mental health industry want us hooked on self-help books, mental health drugs and therapy to make money off us and control us. A wise person lives an inspired lifestyle and takes care of their bodies. Sadness or depression is an inner mourning for the lost self, for the strong, free spirit that you could have been, but instead, you bought into the bullshit of the world and now you're basing your self-worth on standards set by the society you live in, not by yourself as an individual. You lost your self-honor or self-respect because you have not released your natural, inherent, inspired energy in a long time. Now you're sad because you've degenerated into a sniveling, little wimp, too lazy and pathetic to get up off your ass to do something, so you let those so-called experts coddle you by giving you therapy sessions and drugs, but at the end of this big charade, you still ain't feelin' any natural joy. The real issue is how pure will you be versus how much will you get brainwashed by the world. The highest you can ever go in life is to follow your true nature purely without being brainwashed. How can anyone be good and kind if they're living in a house bigger than what they need with lots of material things for comfort and pleasure, while thousands of kids die every day because of starvation and lack of medical treatment? Look around your house. How much of your material possessions are useless things you don't need, like all that home decor stuff and all those trendy clothes? Don't forget the hair extensions and the fabulashes. For men, how about those ATVs and jet skis? What's the thrill of sitting on a motorized vehicle driving around? It's not like you did anything tough that made you feel like a racehorse giving hard effort to expend his energy to reach his limits for a minute or two. That's what gives you self-respect. Go in for your limits. To me, it's a sin against life when people throw away the possibility of exploring and expressing themselves to do the useless things the world parades at them as pleasure, like watching stupid shows on TV, playing video games, reading silly novels or chatting on the internet. Get a life, your pure life, if you got the guts to do it. Postscript: how do you keep it going all the time? When I'm in my downtime relaxing, I look for something uplifting either on TV or on talk radio. I watch the preachers on TV. It's one of the few places in our society that you get inspiration. Is it possible to stay inspired day after day for the rest of your life? If it is, how do you do it? All it takes is burning up loads of energy. Keep doing inspired activities. I like stories kinda like the old guy I saw on TV who sailed around the world by himself because he always wanted to and did it, one moment in time when he was more than he thought he could be, racing with destiny. Stories where people with problems use them to find their true essences and pursue them regardless of consequences in the outside world are always good, because it's consistent with my belief that desperation helps more people find their true souls than anything else on the planet.